So have you ever had an oil-free, refined sugar-free, and gluten-free German chocolate cake? Well, I was asked by lots of people to make one, so I did. And today, I'm going to show you how to make your own. All right, so let's talk about the ingredients we're going to use for this highly requested German chocolate cake. For the base, we're going to use some oat flour. We're going to use some almond flour. We're going to use some unsweetened applesauce. I'm going to use some walnut milk. You could use any plant milk you prefer. I'm going to use some apple cider vinegar, some date syrup, some cocoa, some vanilla bean powder. Now, you could use vanilla bean extract. I like to use the powder. It has more flavor. I get a really nice brand of vanilla bean powder there. Then we're going to have some baking soda and some baking powder as well. Now, keep in mind, these ingredients might look a little more substantial than you would think, but we're making 2 cakes here. This is a double layer cake, so this is enough ingredients to make 2 different cakes. If you wanted to tone it down some, you can make a single layer cake, but you know, German chocolate cakes typically are double layered, and that's what we're doing today. As far as the oat flour, now what I do is I buy an organic, glyphosate certified free and gluten certified free brand of oats. I talk about the brand of oats that I use in my apps. I talk about all brands that I prefer strongly in my app, so you can check it out there at hveating.com. So I grind my own. Now, it's not as finely ground as you would, as an oat flour that you would get in the store, but it definitely will suffice. So that is one option if you want to make sure that you're getting gluten-free, glyphosate-free oats that won't give you issues. Then you can check out the brand that I use in my app or use your favorite brand. All right, so these are the ingredients we're going to use to make this delicious. As I said, this is a recipe that's been requested almost as much as any. That's why I'm doing it. Let's start putting this German chocolate cake together. All right, so I'm going to start by combining my wet ingredients together and then getting them blended really well. Now, typically this process would start with eggs, butter or oil, and refined white sugar. But here we're starting with much healthier alternatives that will give us the same delicious taste. Okay, and now it's the same process for the dry ingredients. I'm just going to get them all combined and then blend them in together. Now, an interesting fact is that it turns out that German chocolate cake is not German at all. It actually got the name from an American baker, Samuel German, who had developed a kind of baking chocolate that was called German sweet chocolate that was used over a century later in a widely published recipe. That recipe was called German's chocolate cake. If you're enjoying this video, please like and subscribe below. Just right. Okay, so now we have our cake portions ready for the oven, and while they're baking, we're going to throw together some delicious German chocolate frosting. Okay, so now we're actually going to make a couple of different frostings for this cake. The first we're going to do is a traditional chocolate frosting. Now to make that, I'm going to use some hot water here that I got pretty hot. It doesn't have to be boiling hot, but you want it somewhat hot to help make this a nice creamy frosting. I'm going to be using some dates, some nut butter, some vanilla bean powder, and some cocoa. Now keep in mind, if this was a traditional cake, you would see things like butter and refined sugar up here, but we're not using those ingredients to make this a truly healthy vegan cake. All right, let's start putting this icing together. So this is my go-to chocolate frosting. It contains really simple ingredients, but the result is a silky smooth, fudgy chocolate, and it's so simple to make. If you or someone you know has an allergy to nuts, this frosting can also be made with tahini instead of nut butter. So lately I've received several emails and DMs asking for my opinion on supplements, and in particular creatine. Now, I first heard great things on creatine several years ago, but I was skeptical and thought it was just the latest fad for hardcore weightlifters. But once I started diving into the science behind it, I realized that creatine is actually a supplement for overall health, not just physical performance. Although it's great for building muscle, what drew me to it is that it supports the entire body and mind. Creatine has been shown to help with energy production, recovery after workouts, and even mental clarity. And there are additional benefits like improved bone health and support for cognitive and reproductive health that makes creatine a smart investment in my future health, not just a short-term performance booster. Now, if you read about creatine, you'll find that one of the main concerns, like many supplements, is product purity. Many supplement companies sell products that include sketchy fillers and vague labels. However, Complement Creatine has just one ingredient, micronized creatine monohydrate, sourced from Germany, which is some of the best in the world. Every batch is third-party tested for purity, and they actually publish their results right on their website. And this kind of transparency is rare in the supplement world. Complement Creatine dissolves quickly and completely in water or smoothies with no weird texture or taste, and it's also vegan and cruelty-free. And you can check out this product by tapping in the descriptions below. Now let's get back to this recipe. All right, so now to make the more traditional German chocolate cake frosting, we're going to use some date paste, some organic shredded coconut, some pecans, whichever you prefer, some vanilla bean powder, and then some nut butter. Now for the vanilla bean powder, you could use vanilla extract. Also, the powder is just my preference. With the pecans, I've lightly toasted mine. If you're worried about acrylamides or for whatever reason you prefer raw pecans, you could use those as well. These are the things we're going to use for that particular frosting. Let's put it together. So German chocolate cake frosting is typically made with eggs, butter, and evaporated milk, which creates a kind of custardy consistency. But of course, we're putting a healthy vegan twist on this one by simply using dates to make the date paste, and that date paste will create a delicious caramel flavor. Now, if you want to create a bit of a thinner consistency, you can add some plant milk until your desired consistency is achieved. All right, so now I've got my cakes out of the oven. I'm gonna let them sit here and just cool for about 10 minutes. Then I'm gonna transfer them to a cooling rack to finish cooling before we add our frosting. All right, so I prepared everything that we need to put this into one delicious German chocolate cake, which is what I'm about to do right now. Now, if you decide to make your filling thinner, be sure not to over thin it, as it will make the stacking of the cakes a little trickier. All right, so I'm just adding the filling in between the layers nice and evenly. Then I'm going to gently add my second cake layer. And next is my favorite part, the frosting. So we're just going to start by adding a thin layer of the chocolate frosting on the top. Now we don't need a lot of frosting here because we will be topping it with more of the German chocolate cake frosting. Then it's time to get the frosting on the sides. Now I'm carefully adding the final frosting on top, taking care not to press too hard since we have the chocolate frosting underneath. And finally, a sprinkle of coconut as the final touch. All right, that's always my favorite part of the process when making a cake is doing the frosting. And now that the cake is decorated, there's only one thing left, and that's a taste test for you, of course. If you're enjoying this video, please like and subscribe below. All right, so we're all done, and I can't wait to taste this beautiful piece of cake. A quick reminder though, I do want to remind everyone that this is a high-calorie dessert, and even though I have this gigantic piece here that I'm probably not going to eat all of in one sitting, you want to be very mindful when you're making a dessert like this of portion control. So I'm not advocating that you have a piece this big, although you could if you wanted to. Let's have a taste. So good. With all of the unhealthy ingredients and still all the flavor. Absolutely love it. All right, if you're new to my channel and you're wondering how to find the recipes, look below the video and tap on the word more and you'll see the beginning of the recipe. Tap on the word more a second time and you'll see the full recipe, and then you can begin to make your own. Thanks for watching.